The ashes of orbit. The orbital wreckage still burned when Commander Elias Ward stepped out of the dropship. The air of Xytheron 4 was thick with dust, ozone, and the scent of scorched metal. Shattered towers lay across the plains like the skeletons of titans. The war had been merciless, a conflict between the Terran Accord and the Xytheron Empire that lasted 6 long years. Billions dead. A galaxy trembling. But now, at last, it was over. Elias had fought through it all, from the sieges of Titan to the ruins of Alteris. His name was carved into war logs as both hero and butcher, depending on which side wrote the record. And yet, as he looked over the smoking horizon, he felt nothing like a victor, only exhaustion. Command says the local citadel had survivors, his lieutenant muttered, reading from her wrist console. Mostly civilians. Some high-ranking ones. Elias grunted. Civilians. Always civilians. He trudged forward, rifle slung across his back, boots crunching on glass and ash. The ruins groaned in the distance, the dying breath of a civilization that had thought itself eternal. To the prison below. They found her in the lower chambers of the citadel. A cell carved into stone, its doorway sealed by a collapsed ceiling. Inside, under debris and dust, lay a single figure. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered faintly in the torchlight. Silver, almost translucent, with faint veins of bioluminescent blue. Her hair was the color of frost. Her eyes, when she stirred and looked up, glowed like starlight trapped in tears. Elias froze. He'd seen Xytherons before. Their commanders, their soldiers, their machines. But never one like her. The lieutenant scanned her tag with her visor. Identification match. Princess Liara Vexen, heir to the Xytheron Empire. The words hung heavy in the stale air. The princess of the enemy. The face of every war broadcast, every hate poster, every rallying cry. The one who had promised the extinction of Terran filth. And now she was broken, filthy, shaking, wrapped in what was left of ceremonial silk. Her crown lying shattered beside her. 3. The gesture. Liara tried to rise but collapsed again. Her breathing was shallow, her once lustrous robes soaked in soot and blood. Get her med attention, Elias said quietly. His lieutenant hesitated. Sir. She's the enemy. She's alive, Elias replied flatly. That's enough. He knelt beside her, brushing away debris. Her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered something in her language. Soft, melodic, impossible to understand. He reached into his utility pack, pulling out a standard-issue Terran medkit and a small emergency towel. The thing was coarse, old, probably from his first deployment. But it was clean. He handed it to her gently. She stared at it like it was a relic of the gods. Her trembling fingers brushed the fabric, and then, before he could react, she pressed it to her face and wept. She fell forward, her knees hitting the stone, shoulders shaking. The towel slipped through her hands as if it burned her. To Elias it was just a towel. To her, perhaps, it was something else entirely. The first act of mercy she had ever known from a human. 4. The silence between wars. They extracted her from the ruins under guard. The transport back to the fleet was silent. No one dared speak as Liara sat chained across from them, still clutching the towel in her lap like a sacred object. Every once in a while, her gaze would drift to Elias, curious, wary, searching. In orbit, the flagship Sol Invictus awaited. It was a Terran behemoth, miles long, powered by antimatter cores and Victory. Elias escorted her personally to the medical bay. She's malnourished, the doctor said, scanning her vitals. Dehydrated. But, sir, there's something strange. What? She's suffering from neuroempathic shock. Elias frowned. Explain. The doctor hesitated. Her species has partial empathic receptors. They feel emotional residue. Fear, anger, compassion. She's been surrounded by hatred for years. And then he trailed off. You gave her something different. Elias glanced through the glass at Liara. She sat motionless on the cot, the towel folded neatly beside her. Her gaze was distant, unreadable. Keep her alive, he said quietly. 5. The Lessons of Captivity. Days passed aboard Sol Invictus. The war was technically over, but the peace was cold. Liara remained in isolation. No chains now, just the silence of confinement. The crew feared her. Some called her the Witch of Xytheron. Others whispered that she carried death wherever she went. But Elias visited daily. Not out of duty. At least that's what he told himself. He brought her food she could actually eat, books translated from Terran archives, and small items. Ordinary things she had never seen before. Cup. Datapad. Blanket. Every time, she'd look at him as though trying to decipher the riddle of humanity. One day she finally spoke in English, her voice soft but steady. Why? Elias blinked. Why what? Why help me? I am your enemy. He leaned against the wall. The war's over. You're not my enemy anymore. Her gaze hardened. You destroyed our cities. You burned our sons. Elias met her eyes. You did the same. For a long time neither spoke. Then in a whisper she said, You offered me kindness, and it hurt more than your weapons. 6. The Fall of Empires. Weeks turned into months. Reports came in from the outer colonies. Rebellion, famine, collapse. Without the Xytheron Empire's command, their vast territories were fragmenting. The Terran Accord, meanwhile, struggled to manage victory. Billions displaced. Refugee worlds overrun. The cost of conquest was heavier than the war itself. In that chaos, Liara's existence became political dynamite. Some demanded her execution. Others wanted to parade her as a trophy. Elias argued for neither. She's not a weapon, he told the High Council during a closed transmission. She's proof that peace isn't built on corpses. Peace? One admiral scoffed. She commanded the fleets that annihilated half our armada. She was a symbol, not a strategist, Elias countered. She was raised to hate us. We can end that cycle, or repeat it. The council was unconvinced. Orders came down. Liara was to be transferred to a Terran tribunal on Mars for sentencing. But fate, as always, had other plans. 7. The escape. The convoy never reached Mars. Halfway through the jump corridor, a rogue Xytheron fleet ambushed them, remnants of the old empire refusing to surrender. Plasma fire tore through the escort ships. Elias's vessel was hit first. Alarms screamed, the hull shuddered, and the stars fractured into chaos. He raced through the smoke-filled corridors toward the brig. Liara's cell door had already been blown open. She stood there, unarmed, the towel still clutched against her chest. "Come on," he shouted. "We need to move." She hesitated. "You'd risk yourself again for me?" "Apparently I make bad habits," he said, grabbing her hand. They ran through the burning decks together, dodging debris and collapsing bulkheads. The ship's reactor was seconds from overload. At the final airlock, the blast doors jammed. Elias shoved her through the escape pod first. "What about you?" she cried. "I'll follow in the next one." She shook her head, eyes wide, glowing with fear and defiance. "Humans always say that," she whispered. Then she did the unthinkable. She grabbed him and pulled him in with her. The pod launched seconds before Sol Invictus erupted into a supernova of light. The Lost World. When consciousness returned, Elias found himself staring at alien skies. Twin suns hung over a crimson desert. Their escape pod had crashed into the sand, half buried. Liara knelt beside him, tending to his wounds with trembling hands. "You're alive," she said softly, almost disbelieving. "So are you." The planet was barren, uncharted, a dead world on no known map. They were stranded, alone, surrounded by silence. Days turned into weeks. They scavenged supplies, built shelter, survived off condensed rations and water from underground streams. In the evenings they'd sit by the fire beneath strange constellations, and she'd ask about Earth. Oceans, forests, rain. Things she'd only seen in intercepted images. In return, she told him of her childhood. The glass cities, the crystalline seas of Xytheron, the songs her mother sang before the war. Slowly, the barriers between them eroded. The towel, once a symbol of shame, became a reminder of survival. She washed it, folded it carefully each night, and kept it beside her when she slept. It wasn't just fabric anymore. It was the bridge between two broken worlds. 9. The Revelation. One night, under the alien stars, she spoke words that froze him. "My people were dying long before your war." Elias looked up. "What do you mean?" "Our sons are failing. Our genetics unraveling. We sought new worlds not out of conquest but desperation. We told ourselves humanity would never share. So we took." She turned toward him, tears catching the firelight. "I helped justify genocide because I thought it would save my people." Elias was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You can still save them. Not with weapons. With truth." Liara shook her head. "They won't listen to a traitor. Then they'll listen to a survivor," he said. And the return. Months later, a Terran patrol found them. 2 figures. One human, one alien, walking side by side through the desert. When they were brought aboard, the crew stared as if witnessing myth. The infamous Princess Liara Vexen, alive, and beside her, the man who had once captured her. But she didn't come as a prisoner this time. She came as an emissary. Her testimony before the Terran Council reshaped everything. She spoke not as royalty but as a witness, exposing the decay of her empire, the truth of the war's origins, and the possibility of coexistence. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't easy. But history would remember that day as the true beginning of peace. 11. The Epilogue. Years later, on a quiet Earth morning, Elias stood by the coastal cliffs overlooking the Pacific. The sky shimmered with ships, Human and Xytheron working together rebuilding. Liara joined him, her hair catching the wind. She no longer wore the robes of empire, only a simple coat, Terran design. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Handing you that towel?" He smiled faintly. "Not once." She laughed, a sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. "You taught me," she said softly, "that mercy is the strongest weapon your kind ever forged." He turned to her, eyes thoughtful. "And you taught me that enemies are just friends we haven't heard the truth from yet." For a moment, they simply stood together, 2 survivors of extinction, watching a new dawn rise over both their worlds. And somewhere, deep in the archives of history, the story was remembered not as the fall of empires, but as the day humanity chose compassion over victory. Because sometimes, peace begins not with treaties or fleets, but with a single quiet act. A hand extended, towel offered, and an alien who finally learned what humanity truly meant. In